We have new power-ups, active items, special effects, new enemy, rebalancing, and a whole new mouse control for our inputs to make it a lot smoother. So now let me show you everything that's new. So here we are. Nothing here has changed. We have not worked on the menus yet. Eventually, I will probably work on it. But if we come here, you'll see a few things that are different. First of all, I can see my mouse. And as I move around, the mouse is irrelevant. But when I attack, or when I block, I am actually following the direction of the mouse. Now the dash is still the same as before, but you can see it has now some effects that we've added for a few things, and there's a few extra things over here that we'll get into just a moment. Now, something to keep in mind is I did add this mouse control, but unfortunately, I forgot one little detail, and that's controller support. So what's happening now, so if I attack, it goes towards the mouse, not towards where I'm actually pointing. So I actually, in a sense, broke controller support for right now. Keyboard and mouse only. Sorry, I'll try to get it fixed for next time. But let me show you some of the cool new things. So these are active items. On the left here is just the none, it's just if you want to clear it. And you can see in the top left, you just got a print string right now, just to tell you what we're picking up. So for example, we got super jump. It's activated with the Q button, and this allows you to just jump really, really high. And this is very useful to allow you to just, when you are between the rooms, whenever you'd like. There's also a teleporter. You get to hold Q to place down a teleport location and just press Q to teleport to it. And you can put a new location somewhere else and teleport to it. Now, this only works when the rooms are not activated, so you're not in combat. This allows you to place a teleporter, go explore, do whatever, and be like, okay, I actually want to go a different way from here. Let's come back and teleport our way. Next over is the glider. Now, this one basically reduces your fall speed like a glider. It doesn't have any animations, but I'm sure you guys know what a glider is. This also allows you to still dash while gliding, so you can actually get quite a few bit distance in that. And the last two here are actually offensive active items. So this is an aura that will allow enemies to not do as much damage to you. They will do 20% less damage to you. While the last one is a vulnerability aura, which will allow them to take 20% more damage from you. Now it's only in this area. Enemies outside of this area will not work, but you can, right at the current moment, just use it as much as you want and reposition it really quickly. Most likely we'll be adding in a cooldown so you can't just spam it all the time. Other than that, we've added a few extra new power-ups. So starting here, we have reinforced shield, increased damage reduction when blocking. So by default now, blocking with a shield no longer reduces 100% of the damage. It only reduces 50% of the damage. Dash now actually still reduces everything because you just move out of the way. There's now a fire trail, so leave a trail behind your wake, damaging enemies. And if I go ahead and select it, and again, to get to the menu, just backspace, and I run around, you can see we are now leaving a little trail of fire, and any enemy that walks through it will take damage. And if they stand in it, of course, it'll also take damage. Mirror Rocket, when blocking a projectile, you shoot a copy back at the enemy, which is really nice because this stacks with other power-ups. So for example, if I grab this and shoot a projectile back, I can use it with, for example, greater multi-attack, and it will shoot multiple projectiles back at the enemy. Now, I'll select it so you can see it in action in just a moment. We, of course, have new actual healing options with the ability to heal 1% of the max life on kill and ability to double your healing. We also have a lot more maneuverability things with the dash. We can get double dash, so we get just an additional dash. You can get an explosion at the start or end of the dash, depending on the power-up you choose. I'll go ahead and grab both for demonstration. So now, if I run around and I press shift to dash, we can go ahead and cause an explosion at the beginning and at the end, which is great. They might be thinking, well, I don't really have two dashes. Well, in the bottom left here, we've added two icons here. It only appears two when you have two dashes. It just shows you how many you have. And when you dash, he goes ahead and removes the icon. And when you get a dash back, you see the icons are returning. It's possible we'll add like an actual timer to it, but you can see we get dashes back and you can see how many you have at any time. And then kind of a few other ones. We have point blank and snipe, which just deals more damage the closer the enemy is to you, or more damage the further away someone is. Now, technically, you could have both, but effectively, if they're right in the middle, that is kind of then would be the sweet spot where it'd be 10% and then 10% again. Because remember, the more multiplies on top of each other. So instead of incremental, this is more damage. So every time it multiplies. So effectively, if you have both, you could theoretically position them where you take even more damage than before. There's an option to dash through enemies and a simple double jump, which actually is quite nice because now if you have, for example, the glider or something of that sort, so if I grab the glider, double jump, right, I can maneuver myself quite a bit more and get up on higher ledges. And lastly, we've reworked some abilities. So some abilities now have a ranged and melee option. For example, piercing attacks, projectiles go through enemies, but in melee, attacks pierce behind enemies as well. So if you attack someone and there's enemies behind them and you hit someone, it'll actually do a longer hit, effectively hitting enemies behind, simulating piercing. Same with spectral attacks. Instead of projectiles faced through enemies, your teleport attack can go through objects. So you yourself will go through those walls. I don't have those walls enabled everywhere at the current moment, but once I set that up, that will work. We've already got it tested and working. Homing attacks, home on the enemies, but melee allows you to just have a longer and wider area where you can just teleport to them. So instead of the projectiles going to the enemies, you go to the enemies as a melee attack. And there's a few other small things that we have adjusted in the power-ups, but that's the main ones. So let's get into the game and let me show you the actual now reflection option, as well as the new enemy. So just like before, you can go into any room you'd like. Let's go into this one here. Wait for it to spawn. And now we have a few new enemies that shoot a little flamethrower. Now they stay in place. They are quite dangerous because they do not stop firing even if you hit them. So you want to watch out, but it should be relatively easy to just dash out of the way. And you can see now we're being attacking with the mouse. And now the control actually feel a lot better because we are now properly teleporting to them. So if I hit them a little bit back, I will actually teleport to them. So I'm always effectively teleporting to the enemies as long as they're within kind of the range. Now I'm gonna grab like the homing and get a longer range for teleporting. But at the current moment, that's all we need here. And we can just go make our way around. Now let's go find an enemy that shoots projectiles so we can show the actual reflection of it. So I found Zorla here, and one thing I've changed is her special ability. So if she goes ahead and does it, you'll see it no longer will track with you. There it is. So she ended up spawning it, and it'll grow in size, and when it reaches the max, it'll turn red, and a moment later, it will explode. And if you hit her, it will stop, it will turn red, and then it will go ahead and actually affect it. Now let me... While dodging, I ended up dying, but that's okay. Let's go find ourselves a ranged enemy with those power-ups again. So here's a ranged enemy, and you can see he shoots a projectile. Now, if I go ahead and block, I shoot a projectile back. Now, I still take damage, but I can effectively shoot the projectile back to wherever I'm blocking towards. Bam, and I can shoot him back. Now, the damage I do is not relative to his damage, it's relative to my damage at the current moment. So I can actually do quite a bit of damage. But the main thing is it also works with other abilities. Like I said, with greater multi-attack, for example, we can get it to actually spawn more projectiles when it returns. And we can do things like homing and piercing and actually have it return and go through the enemy. So let's go find ourselves another ranged enemy. Here is Zorla again. Perfect. She shoots me, stops hiding. You'll see I shoot a lot of projectiles back. Just like that. And of course, it stacks with other things. We can pull enemies in. So this way, since we're melee, we'll want to pull them in melee. And as a ranged, we'll want to pull them in potentially towards someone as well. So if I get this guy's attention, this is one of the old 2D ones, so it's hard to tell where he's looking. We still need to adjust the fact that they stay way too long in that lava. They should get out of there. They don't have priority to stay there, but it seems it still kind of stays a bit. You can see the black hole effect is great for melee. And here's a ranged enemy. And if he shoots me, I shoot him back. All the hits go back toward him, and he gets pulled towards everything. So extremely powerful. Bam. And it homes on the enemies, as you see. And so we're able to kind of go around. Now you can see I can teleport quite a bit because I have homing now. So I actually am able to kind of teleport attack to him for quite a distance. So that is the power of homing on melee. So you can use that together with it. So the combat just feels a whole lot better because of this. So with the power-ups, you now have more options, which is great. There's also quite a bit more blood, you might notice. I increased the scale of the blood because I felt the old one was a little bit too small. Grab ourselves a new power-up because they dropped one. And we can grab some other new things. Now, I gave myself mini black hole and homing attacks. As you can see here, we gave ourselves some stuff for this demonstration. So I'll grab myself some fire aspect and continue on. Speaking of fire, the aspects, the freezing one actually got a little bit of an improvement. It is now much easier to freeze enemies. So, which is great. I think the big one for me is the ability to now use the mouse and improvements with also the blocking. It is now more accurate than it was before, as well as the teleport attack for melee is now considerably better Now, of course, this is, of course, with homing right now, but you get the idea. And again, I can shoot back with the black hole, with the multi-attack, applied the fire aspect, so everything stacks. And lastly, some other improvements that we've made besides the actual effect for the dash and the teleport attack. Some other things got an update, for example, Dome Shield, Toxic Aura. As you can see, there's now an actual effect for it. Dome Shield, when you have it, actually is like an actual effect here. Now, the Toxic Aura spins with the mouse, and that's something I actually need to adjust. But in the end, it will just stay stationary. Yeah, so now you can have quite a bit of different effects all coming together and hopefully making this place feel a little bit better. That's kind of an overview of the major changes since last update. I was out of commission for about a week, so I didn't get as much done as I would have liked, but hopefully this will be enough for you guys to enjoy. I think it adds quite a bit to the gameplay. As always, the project is going to be uploaded to the Patreon, where you can join these wonderful people here in supporting what I do. You can support me there and download it for yourself. Just keep in mind, of course, it is entirely very much pre-alpha. Then you get to the Patrons. If game dev is not really your thing, check out this video right here where I show you how to start creating a building with PCG in the new 5.4 with all the new fun mechanics they introduced.